Hello, Henry.
Hi, Simon.
Um, just to start the interview, then, just give us a brief introduction to your role within the arts sector.
I always find it quite difficult to answer this because for the past few years I've done loads of different things, but for the past kind of 2 years it's mainly been music management, artist development stuff, and then a little bit of promoting on the side of that, but predominantly music management, mentoring, artist development, that kind of thing.
Cool. How did you first get involved with that specific role then?
Well, I started doing musicy stuff like years and years and years ago. I quit the one day job I've ever had kind of 15 years ago and did mainly full-time musician stuff then. So I was like a songwriter and played in a couple of bands and things. And then after that, I kind of started doing more of the behind the scenes stuff and the offstage stuff. So things like PR, a lot more booking, those kind of things, did a little bit of A&R, and then gradually kind of got all this experience together. And maybe 5 years ago, I got asked to help out managing a band just with somebody else. And then because I'm a complete megalomaniac, I kind of pushed that other person out the way and started doing it all myself. And then over the past year or so, I've taken on a couple of other artists as well. And yeah, just with having loads of different experiences and loads of different strands in the music industry, it's coming quite useful for doing the kind of artist development stuff and mentoring things. So alongside managing like Cattle and Kane, Mount Misery, Jodie Nicholson, and Joe Hamill from Cattle and Kane as a songwriter, I've kind of done loads of mentoring stuff with loads and loads of Northeast artists like Lovers, Eve Conway, Callum Pitt, Mousers, loads of people. So yeah, kind of just fell into doing all this stuff, having tried to do anything music related to make a living since like 2005, pretty much.
Did you get up to the bit like other creators get up to sometimes when like, oh, I'm gonna try and get like out and get myself like a career job or something, but then just end up further in?
I think that's one thing that's been weird about lockdown. It's kind of the first time I've ever had a chance to take a step back and think what it is I actually want to do. But yeah, pretty much every few years I'm like, maybe it's time to get a real job. But here I am in my mid-30s, still just about clinging on to trying to make a living from all this stuff.
Oh, that's cool. With your um like learning the practices and stuff, are you self-taught or was there any kind of like formal education involved?
A lot of it's self-taught. Like I did go to uni and I did media studies, but I did that as a mature student. So I was like 30 when I did that, and I'd already done a lot of the things that I do now. But it was quite interesting, kind of adding a bit of theory to the practical side of things. And I got really stuck into the academic stuff with like the cultural theory stuff and just reading loads of stuff that like French blokes who smoke cigarettes and had loads of black and white photos of them like said like 60, 70 years ago. So that was quite cool. And I did a master's after that as well, where I did a lot of research into Spotify and things. So it's a bit of a weird one for me. Most of the stuff is self-taught, and like I'm a bit of a nerd and I read a lot of stuff. So even though I hadn't got kind of formal education, like I read pretty much anything that's to do with the music industry as soon as it lands in my inbox and stuff. So yeah, it's predominantly self-taught, but then kind of added a little bit of the theoretical side over the past few years.
That's class. A bit of like a big, I feel like it's a big question anyway, but so you can have a shorter answer, it might be quite poignant, maybe like French cigar worthy. But why do you think the creative arts are important? You can speak this about like personal stuff, or you can speak about more broader terms.
I think it's really. I wish that I'd had a heads up on this question so I could have come up with something really profound beforehand. But I think like it's important for people's mental health and everything. And I think like having those little things that you can have to kind of relax with and kind of have an emotional attachment with and stuff. I think I don't know. It's the $1 million question, that isn't it? But I think it's just so healthy generally to just have things that you're passionate about and have things that are creative. I think all the stuff that's been going around after the government suggested that people should retrain, and it's just suddenly kind of like pointing out to people that everything requires creativity. Like everything, like if you start on your computer or your phone, somebody has created that, somebody's designed it. So there's the kind of practical side of things. Then for me, I think this year more than anything, like live music is something that I kind of thought I was falling out of love with a bit. Like you played in bands with me for a little period of time. I didn't really want to be doing that, did I? It wasn't what I was into by that point. I was more into the stuff, like I said, offstage roles. But then live music's just something that I must have been to kind of 100 gigs every year for about 20 years. And then this year going to like 3. It's just like, it just leaves a massive hole. And like the first gig I went to after all this, I was quite emotional at it because I was like, I didn't realize how much I would have missed it and stuff. So I think, yeah, I don't really know if that's a particularly good answer to your question, but it's that kind of emotional attachment that you get with all the creative stuff, isn't it? That you don't
Yeah.
realize how much it means to you till you can't have it as much.
I like the whole thing about everything just being art. Like, I had to open up Zoom and somebody, like that logo, like, that user interface, everything, like every little bit on this screen has just been crafted and created by a creative person. The big question then, that wasn't even the big question, mate.
I should do
It,
these things.
it's all right. I mean, I quite like the au naturel kind of thing because you're a good guy, Henry. Don't worry about it. How has lockdown affected your work and your future plans?
I think for me, it's like this answer is going to be tinged with quite a lot of guilt because obviously financially for people who work in the creative industries, it's been a really tough year. Like I don't make very much money out of the live gigs that I put on because if I break even, I can class that as a success more often than not. But I think for me, looking away from the kind of financial side of it, it's been a really good year, which feels horrible to say because I know how many people have had a terrible year. But I started managing Jodie Nicholson at the end of last year, so just over 12 months ago now. And she's had an absolutely incredible 2020, and it's given me like a real passion for the work that I do. And like doing the artist mentoring and the artist development stuff is really nice. But you kind of give people advice, then it's over to them to do it. Whereas with Jodie, we've worked on everything together, and she's amazing to work with, and she's so focused and incredibly talented. So that obviously helps. But all this stuff that I sit and tell people, oh, you could try doing this, you could try doing this, like it works. Like she's getting 10,000 people listening to her a month on Spotify. She's been on the Six Music playlist. She's had plays on Radio 1, Radio 2. She's got a booking agent. She's got loads of really cool label interest. And it's like, yeah, all this stuff, it really works. And then with Catalan Kane and Joe Hamill, who I've worked with for like 5 years now, he was really, really quick to be happy to use Zoom for like songwriting sessions and stuff. And a couple of the songs that he's written have been on like the Radio 2 playlist for other artists that he works with and stuff. So it's been the first time where like I might just turn the radio on in the car and hear a song that somebody who I work with's written. And that kind of buzz that you get from that, it's the same buzz that I got 15 years ago when it was my own songs being played on the radio. So yeah, I think especially for Joe Hamill and Jodie Nicholson, it's been a really good year, which feels horrible to say given what it's been like for everyone else. But I think, yeah, it can probably take quite a lot of positives out of it. And like, I think one thing with me being such a pessimist just naturally, back in February, March time, I was just saying, there's not going to be any gigs for months and months. This year's going to be a write-off. Let's work out some other stuff. So like I say, Joe was really quick to try doing Zoom sessions early on. With Jodie, we got a producer who could work remotely. So he controls her laptop from his studio in London and she could just record from home. But that's kind of meant that neither of them have had to kind of stagnate with their careers. They could just crack on. And I think my kind of pessimism about how rubbish everything was going to be is actually paid off for once because it's meant that they can really kind of have a breakthrough year with their craft. And obviously with me trying to guide that. So yeah, I feel horrible saying it, but it's actually been quite a good year in some respects.
It's really like a dynamic like answer as well, isn't it? It's almost respecting the bad while also being positive about the things that are actually being positive. Like that's
Yeah, I think like once we realised that like, well, me and Andy, who I co-promote Twisterella, the festival that I co-promote, like once we decided that there was no chance it was going to happen in October and we pulled the plug on it probably April time. And at that point, a lot of agents and stuff were going, oh, surely gigs will be happening again by October. And the venues were kind of the same. And we were like, we don't think it's fair or even right to be trying to sell tickets and promote stuff when there was so much uncertainty. But I think having that kind of, I'm trying to think how to phrase it without sounding horrible, but like not having to work on Twisterella gave me some headspace and some free time to actually figure out like what I could do with the artist management stuff. And like, I'd kind of after Catalan Kane stuff, I'd said, oh, I'm happy just managing one band because any more than that's hard. Like I worked with your old band Cape Cub for a while and it's hard to balance both. Yeah. But I think having that kind of time away from the live music side of things gave me the opportunity to really kind of delve into the artist management and artist development stuff and really kind of hone my craft in that respect. So yeah, in a weird way, it's been quite a good year, but then obviously never leaving the house and never seeing any of your mates. And like I became a dad in February and most of my mates and family still haven't met my daughter, which is all like, but work-wise, it's been good. But like I say, that feels horrible to say in the current climate. So yeah, never mind.
Thanks very much for your time, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.
Just said that while you were drinking. Right, I'm going to